Okay, welcome everyone. I guess, can we start by adopting the agenda for today's meeting? Don't have a motion to adopt. Eric, second. Laura?
Before we jump in, Terry, if we want to change the position of an item, do we do that now? If we want to bump up an item?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, I would just suggest that we bump up discussion on the park use study just because Courtney's here and to take advantage and not squander her time. We could address that as the first item of business.
Okay, so we'll move item 8 to item 1. Actually, can I also add discussion around the traffic study that was done by the high school student? Maybe add that into number 3 after the Crag work group update.
Okay, Terry, did you get that?
Yeah.
Traffic study?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so we adopted the agenda. Everyone's read the minutes.
You have to say, clarify that it's the agenda as
the
amended and then have
amended
somebody move
agenda.
that.
Can I get someone to? Thank you, Eric. Second. Brian seconds. The amended agenda. All right. Now can we have a motion to adopt the minutes from last month's meeting? Matt?
Can I suggest just one minor change, just the minutes, just a clarification in under business, budget update in park maintenance. It says new car park access being installed with Trail Society assistance. I think it should be new parking lot Crag access.
Yeah.
We're not working on the car park, but the parking lot Crag.
So just change the word access to Crag, basically.
Sure.
It'll be covered under Crag.
Well, the Crag's already been installed.
Yeah.
It's just the.
The rock was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
One other item.
Yep.
I was present at the meeting on the 23rd of January. Sarah wasn't here, but I was here representing FMC.
Okay. Okay, did you get those changes?
We did.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the amended minutes? Jenna, Councillor Stoner, second? Chrissy, McKay, seconds? Okay. I guess first, welcome to Squamish Nation traditional territory, and sorry. Feeling tired. I guess we'll just there's no delegations or petitions. Is there anyone that is coming in that wants to speak before we get into anything? Okay, so first order of business, I guess, will be the park use study potential from Courtney.
Courtney, come on up and join us. Is there a seat beside Brian? Yeah.
Hello everyone. For those, well, probably none of you know me. I'm Courtney. I'm Courtney Dashbar. I am the new Research and Insights Manager at Tourism Squamish. So I'm working alongside Leslie and Heather, for those of you who may know them at Tourism Squamish. And I had some brief communication about a potential park use study that you guys are looking at. So it'd be fantastic to hear some information, background understanding of that, and then potentially where there's any synergies where we may be able to get involved.
Yeah, I think we were just wondering if anything's been done in the past, or if I think there was maybe some sort of traffic study or a bit of a user number study that was done in the past.
I had a brief chat with Leslie this afternoon. Most of the information that Tourism Squamish has is based on visitor survey information. The most recent, Tourism Squamish completed visitor surveying last year. And some of that actually took place at Bluffs Park. And that provides information on visitors only, so not resident use, but where people were coming from, what their purpose for coming to Squamish was, where they were staying, That's sort of some basic demographics, so gender, income, who they were travelling with, that sort of information. So we do have a little bit of that at this stage from my knowledge, and as I said, I'm relatively new, we haven't gone into the history of it yet, but I don't know if there's a traffic study that has been completed. But that's sort of the information that we focus on, is the visitor side of things.
Okay. And was that done sort of around the same time that there was funding to do that? Like there was a mountain biking study that was done, sort of dollars spent and users?
This was part of the visitor survey that was conducted last year, and I believe some in 2018 as well. The mountain bike study, I think, was done in previous years in 2016, I want to say. So we could definitely have a look and see if there's any information tied to that. This was more in conjunction with, this is sort of annual surveying that Tourism Squamish does, but then it was in conjunction with an economic impact assessment for tourism as a whole for Squamish, which is being released shortly. That was completed sort of last year and into this year.
So the type of study that was done is an annual?
This was the visitor surveying is on an annual basis, but the economic impact assessment sort of got certain periods of time. I don't imagine that will be on an annual basis at this point, but the actual surveying will be. So we'll be doing some visitor surveying this summer. So there is the potential that if there are certain questions that perhaps want to be incorporated into the survey, these are face-to-face intercept surveys, so we actually have people going out and intercepting visitors only, and then getting all that information. So there's definitely that as an avenue that's already available.
What time of year does that usually happen?
So this is over summer, so June through September. So just to give you an indication, the visitor survey is done at 15 different locations throughout Squamish, and last year it was in June to September 2019, and there were over 3,000 responses collected. Of those responses, 337 or 11% of the survey sample was collected at the Smoke Bluffs Park. So it's a decent sample, so that could be a starter for some information that you potentially are looking for. And then, as I said, if we were wanting to perhaps add a question or two, we could look at that.
Okay, yeah, I think if this is already something that's going on and it's an annual visitors survey, I think we could definitely come up with a few questions to add.
Yeah.
Is there sort of a limit on how much time you want to interact with people?
As I said, it would be, in terms of adding questions, it would probably be one or two, just because we do ask obviously a number of questions, and to be able to get a response rate and people to engage, the survey has to be pretty quick and sharp, otherwise people tend to not be engaged. But I guess it also just then depends what questions you're wanting answered, if it would fit within this survey or if it would need a separate sort of study or survey done, and what that may look like. So I guess it really just depends what you're wanting to answer.
Okay. Do you have maybe an example of what was asked?
Yeah, so as I said, this was collecting, the visitor survey collects so asks people where are they from, and this is visitor only, so this doesn't capture any resident use or information, but where they're from, did they stay overnight, where were they staying, what type of accommodation were they staying in, the purpose of their visit to Squamish, and then, as I said, basic demographic information, so their gender, household income. There was some, because we were doing an economic impact assessment last year, there is some spend data that we could look at, but that's related to their spend while they're in Squamish. But so yeah, that's sort of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of results summarized at all that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I can share these here. As I said, we're yet to sort of completely dig into the full results of that visitor survey, but I did pull some that were specific to the Smoke Bluff Park responses. So for interest for everyone, the top 3 places people were visiting from were, and this is, I'll explain it in a minute, but were elsewhere from the US, which was 17%, Vancouver, Lower Mainland, which was 14%, and Washington State, which was 10%. So that's why there's that elsewhere in the US, because we ask specifically if they're from Washington State or California. And then 76% were staying overnight, with 67% of those camping, and 91% were in a designated campground. And 76% had their main purpose for visiting Squamish was rock climbing.
So the number again? 70?
76%. So, and this was surveyed, these were the people that were surveyed in the Smoke Bluffs Park. So they were doing other things while they were in Squamish, but that's where they were captured. 67% were male, 51% were aged 25 to 35 years old, so that younger demographic, and most were travelling with spouse or friends. So that's just a snapshot at a high level, but we could dig into that and, yeah, if there's other interest.
Yeah. Can you extrapolate sort of use numbers at all from the responses that you got?
Not, I mean, we could look at.
Or did you survey it just on one day, or were there
No,
multiple days?
this was across, as I said, those 337 responses were across the June to September period. So we could potentially have a look at that, because we've done some of this economic impact assessment now that we will have an estimated overall visitor number to Squamish. We could have a look at that and see if there's some potential there, to kind of, but that wouldn't replace doing more like a trail counter and that sort of thing. That would be much more accurate. But that wasn't part of any of the study that was done last year.
It'd be pretty simple just to include whether or not they're local. I mean, you only tallied people that were visitors, so you just excluded people that were
residents? Yeah, so this was the specific purpose of this survey was for visitors, so they were actually screened out. Any residents of Squamish were screened out.
Do you have numbers that were screened out, or they were just?
No, they were just screened out.
Okay.
But yeah, but if we were wanting to gauge at that site a local, I mean, you could include locals in that potentially at that site, like a resident survey as well, to get an understanding of their use. That could be something we could potentially explore. But yeah, this was specifically anyone visiting outside of Squamish. So even Whistler and Pemberton were captured in this, but it was a very, very small percentage.
They were considered visitors as well? Okay, just not Squamish residents?
Yeah.
Chrissy?
If we wanted to add like those couple questions, when do we need to get those to you by?
There's still time. We're looking to once again survey probably around those dates again from June to September. So there's definitely time to potentially put in, we can look at adding in a couple of questions that are relative to the study.
Okay, so it's maybe in the next couple months or something?
Yeah, I mean, where are we now? We're in March. Yeah, definitely sort of by mid-May, because we'll be looking to then put together the survey and get training completed for surveys.
Okay. Eric?
Will you be extrapolating the economic impact climbers have on Squamish?
Pardon, sorry?
Will you be extrapolating the economic impact climbers bring to Squamish? Because it says 76%, but of in the 11% in the park, so it's a vastly skewed number. But of the overall money that's coming in, can it be extrapolated to know the impact? That's a really key piece of information for them.
Definitely. So that's the beauty of the work that was done last year, is that the within the project scope, the budget allowed for the economic impact of tourism as a whole, as a sector on Squamish. But if there are, if there is interest from other associations to use that data to then go on and do an economic impact assessment of another subsector, say rock climbing or that sort of thing, that could be explored, but that would be as its own study. So there would have to be some funding around that then yeah.
what funding be required? Because as Climate Taxation British Columbia, that number and that study
Yeah.
can be used across all
definitely.
the access societies across BC, because it's a number that's missing whenever we have conversations with any government body ever.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, and that's
really vital.
That's definitely something Tourism Squamish is going to be looking at. That, as I said, you could definitely, there's different estimations on how much that would cost, and it would depend to what depth and scale that the economic impact assessment was done, but it's definitely possible. But that's definitely something that Tourism Squamish is looking at now that this initial work is, as I said, a little bit ahead of myself because it is almost at the point of public release. But once that's been released at the tourism level, there's the opportunity to go out to those approach those subsectors of like rock climbing or mountain biking and see if there's any potential to use that data to do further studies. So yeah, there is definitely a lot of value in the data that was collected last year.
Is it sort of the data open for anyone to use if they wanted to do their own kind of analysis?
Not at this stage, no. It would just be, yeah, as I said, this was the economic impact assessment that was conducted was in conjunction with the District Tourism Squamish and the Chamber. So that's, yeah, there would have to be some discussion there as to how that would look.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess if somebody wanted to have a look at that data and do something on their own, or maybe provide it to CASBC or something, who would they get in touch with?
Myself and Leslie. So as I said, because we've only just got this sort of the economic impact assessment data, but that's definitely potential to explore that this year.
Can I make a formal request for that data right now, or do I have to wait for another time?
Squamish Access
It's
Society
probably not
would
in the
want
scope
to.
of this meeting.
No, I know, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely take things offline and.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's fantastic that I didn't know you guys did that annually, actually.
Yeah, as I said, I only just recently joined the Tourism Squamish, but I know that for a fact that there was some done in 2018 and of course obviously last year, and then that's part of my role moving forward is data collection in a more consistent, regular basis. But the sample collected last year is a really good sample size to work with.
Okay. The sample size as a whole sounds like it was pretty big, but was the sample just in the smoke bluff sort of big enough to make larger scale inferences from?
Yes, I mean there was over 3,000 overall, and then 337 of those, or 11% of that sample, was at the Smoke Bluffs site. So it's definitely a decent sample size to sort of make assumptions and recommendations on.
What time of the day and what day of the week were the samples taken?
It varied, so I could definitely pull that information because it's all time stamped when the surveys were completed. It was a variety of, yeah, as I said, this wouldn't replace an absolute specific, targeted study, but it definitely provides an overview of what type of visitors are and what they're doing there. So.
Okay. Do we maybe, I don't know, do we want to try and get like a small subcommittee going or something to kind of maybe have another offline meeting with Tourism Squamish to kind of figure out some questions that we might want to answer and how that may look?
I think that's the biggest thing is really what are you guys wanting to find out, because that's what drives asking a question. So we can, once you find out what the goal of the information is, then we can kind of develop the questions around that.
Yeah. Okay, so
then,
you'd rather us sort of
whether,
provide you questions, like the data we want, and then you'll kind of come up with the questions?
Yeah, if you kind of give us sort of an understanding of what you're hoping to achieve from the park use study, I guess then we can kind of either direct and say, yes, that's within the scope of our visitor survey, or actually this would involve sort of its own separate entity to conduct and find the answers to those questions. Because as I said, within the visitor survey, we want to limit we don't want to just sort of have it too long, otherwise it sort of loses its impact. So it may be the need that, depending on what you want to find out, that it needs its own study, or maybe it's enough to include it with the work that we sort of currently do.
Okay. I know there's a traffic study that was done by a high school student in town just recently. I wonder if there'd be an opportunity for someone maybe to volunteer, kind of shadow you guys, and maybe they could come up with their own kind of questionnaire, and
Definitely.
they could do something similar, like alongside you guys.
Definitely, I mean, we're happy to partner and look at those options for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we can even come up with our own questionnaire if it's only like 2 questions. I don't think is really going to be enough to figure out what we want. But if we had like a 6-7 questionnaire or something, maybe we could try and come at the same time or
Yeah, we
learn
could
the techniques.
definitely, as I said, once you've maybe sort of, thrown it all on the table as to what you want to find out, and then get that into a synthesized sort of point, and then perhaps we can, then coordinate if there's an opportunity to work together on that.
Okay. Spencer?
So just for my own clarity, are you looking more for the objective of what we're trying to get out of this study or a questionnaire, or are you looking for us to frame the questions for you?
Just more the objective,
Yes.
the questions they'll come, but it's just really the objective and the core of what information and what questions you want, not what question, the objective of what you want answered, the information you want to find, and then we can develop the questions based on that. But at the core of it, just the objective.
Okay.
Can I jump in and add that I think Courtney really nailed it. Like if you guys are suggesting to undergo some kind of future study, then you need to know what the purpose is, like why you're like what you're trying to get out of it. And so without having that in advance, you really can't plan or kind of jump on board with any of these opportunities. So there needs to be that foundational work done first. And then just to add additional information around the table, the district is starting to undertake, we're calling it a Spaces to Public Places project, and it's looking comprehensively at our parks across the district, so not just West Park, but every park. And as part of that project, we're beginning with just an inventory of our park space, but we want to roll out a survey that would capture basically what people like and dislike about different park spaces and why they go there and what they're using when they're there. So it really is quite a user-focused study. And Gary Buxton's leading that, and I'm kind of playing a supporting role. And I can't really give too much more information because it's in the infancy and we haven't kind of initiated a survey, but Gary's actively working on it, and it's within the 2020 work plan. So there, I think, is a significant opportunity to kind of get involved in that Spaces to Public Places project. And because I'm the staff liaison, I can totally loop all of us in on that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Would there be room for trying to get some of the data that we want to collect inserted in there somehow, do you think? Or I guess you're still kind of scoping it out.
Well, I think until you guys know what data you want to collect, I mean, that's what we need to figure out first. So,
Okay.
yeah,
I don't think we know what kind of data we want to collect yet. I think we're just trying to figure out if there's a way to collect it, I guess. At
or
this
what your
point.
opportunities, like
Yeah.
you guys are in the, in the beginning stages. But yeah, I think a suggestion to maybe have a bit of a subcommittee or a group of people that can actually put some more time beyond just being at this table at this meeting on kind of a bi-monthly basis, put a bit more energy into that. And then I can work with that committee and get Gary looped in as well. So, that's a suggestion for you guys to consider.
Okay. Yeah.
Asia, has there been any other park use studies, like for any specific district of Squamish parks around that you could provide as an example? Kind of look at what information we would want to include.
The only document that I reference regularly, we did a Parks Master Plan in 2012 that has not been kind of updated or redone, but that we're still kind of utilizing. So I can circulate that, and I can try to see if in maybe some of the appendices or some of the background work, there might be some surveying and some stuff like that that might have been done. Other than that, we have some basic surveys that we've done in the past couple of years that are specific to certain parks when we're looking at revitalizing them or adding in different infrastructure. And then I guess the Brennan Park master plan stuff, which I haven't been involved in, but I can for sure follow up on that because that's kind of an ongoing project, and there was a significant survey that went out last year in relation to that project.
Yes?
And I think just to reiterate what Asia just said, it's definitely helpful at times to look at other surveys and what's been done, but I think until you have a clear understanding of what is the issue that you're trying to get an answer to, and why are you asking, like, for what purpose are you collecting data? There's all different ways that you can collect data, and there's different ways you can structure a park use study. But until you have really clear questions about what is it that we're trying to identify, is it how many people use the park? Is it how many visitors versus how many residents? Is it how many climbers versus other activity? It's like you need those basic kind of high level questions of like what is it that we're trying to identify and why before you get into the actual survey structure.
Does anybody know if there was ever something similar done for the Squamish Chief Provincial Park or Urine Provincial Park, something that we can kind of look at to guide us for how we would want to frame this, Spencer?
Well, I think until it's been brought up 2 or 3 times, until we identify what we're looking for, we don't know how to answer that question. BC Parks have done many studies with different objectives, but until we've answered the question as to why would we do it in the first place and what are we looking to get out of it, then we could probably look for other sources of that information. We haven't even thought of the core question yet.
Kristen?
Yeah, Mike, was it you that initially brought up the park use study?
It was.
Did you have any?
Well, I don't know
what
if
was
it
your
was me
basis?
for sure. I mean, it's probably been spoken about in other meetings, I imagine, but the reason I suggested it is we don't have, I think it'd be useful to develop guiding principles for what we're going to develop. So what are we trying to accomplish? Do we need washrooms and parking and new crags? Do we need new trails? Do we need a wheelchair accessible route? Do we need wilderness areas? What are we doing in the park? Where are we going with it? And until we know who's using it, why they're using it, I think it's difficult to move forward. We don't know who we're moving forward for, or why we're moving forward, what we're doing.
So one reason would be like evaluating the amount or like condition of infrastructure in the park for the amount of users.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're looking to figure out who's using the park to figure out how we can serve them better, essentially.
Yeah.
So like what type of users they are, how many residents versus visitors, what their main activities are. And maybe I don't know if we need that info before we even figure out what our next objectives are. I'm not sure how these normally go, but there's a lot of big questions.
It's been suggested that a subcommittee be formed, and I think that's probably where we can delve into more of the nuts and bolts of it.
Okay. When we form subcommittees, is there normally a time where we say who's on it right now, or do we kind of figure that out in the background?
I'm actually not sure if there's protocol around
Right.
that.
Right, so a subcommittee can be formed that's completely offline, so it's just you, and it can't be any more than, or only 3 people. We can't have quorum as a subcommittee, so it's important that we just keep the people to 3, and it's all done offline. It's not done with from us.
Okay. Does anybody want to raise their hand right now to take that on? Mike? Okay.
Now, I do have an immediate question. What if, imagine, because there's a lot of us here with different interests, that there's going to be more than 3 on part of this. So what happens then? Is it a special meeting to be called? How do we do that?
I think that you guys would, as a subcommittee, bring something to the table, and then we would all have our input on it, I think, afterwards. But you guys would kind of develop the initial framework, and we would all have our input, and then you guys could take it back and edit it or whatever. And does that sound right?
Is the table like that? Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to?
I'd be interested, but my time frame is very limited because I'm probably not going to be around in May and June.
You'd probably get a good before May, perhaps, too.
Pardon me?
It'd probably, I imagine it's a good idea to get it done before
Before
May
May,
when
yeah.
the survey
Mhm.
season starts, too.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, we could even have like a 4 or 5 person group, but only meet 3 at a time with, there could be a couple alternates on it or something, so. Anybody else? Eric?
If no one else wants to spot on.
I could join as well. Fill in if we need a third. Okay. The subcommittee is struck. Thanks, Courtney.
Cool.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
just
sorry.
just to clarify on that, so it's 3 maximum before you reach quorum, so you're gonna be sitting as an alternate, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. So what makes that tricky is like email correspondence. So if there's 4 of you on an email, it's technically an online meeting. So I would suggest that you have one of the 3 core members kind of lead the coordination and the scheduling. And if somebody can't make it, then that person who's in the lead email train would just contact Wes and say, hey, can you fill in on this stuff?
Sounds sensible.
So I didn't hear the 4th, so it's,
So it's Eric,
Helen,
Helen.
you can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to do it, yeah, if we can do it
Sure,
before May, yeah.
Perfect, okay. Good call.
And yeah, if anybody else has any suggestions for anything, definitely send an email to one of us. I don't think that's considered committee business, but I'm sure everyone wants to have their input, and I think there's a lot of smart people here that probably have a lot of good questions already in their minds, so definitely fill us in so there's less editing afterwards, I guess, when we get to this table. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
No worries, thank you.
Okay, next order of business would be the budget update and park maintenance contract. Sue?
Okay, budget is approved now for 2020, it was approved last week. So operating budget, $5,000. We have an expense from Climb On of $159.43. And the contract services, again, the approved budget for 2020, $24,000. Maintenance contract, $3,282. And GFL to date, $201.25. Remaining budget $20,575. New business, just an update, and I'll let Andy update on this one. This is the work, the hydro project work that was done up around Meeting Pool, and I apologize for misspelling.
That's okay, you're forgiven.
I was thinking of a name, actually.
Yeah, Meeting Pool, that was, we've completed that work. I don't know if anybody's been up there since then.
You've seen
We
it,
do have a
Laura?
little bit,
Yeah.
we do a little bit of top dressing on it, just to tidy it up, but it's actually lifted up and everything else, it shouldn't be a problem now.
How's the water now?
It'll be, should be fine.
Yeah.
Water should flow right underneath.
Is there a bit of a ditch on both sides kind of thing, and it's lifted up like half a meter in spots?
Almost a meter in some spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's left to do on that? Is there some compacting that's gonna happen, some top dressing or something, or?
Yeah, so we're gonna put some 3/4 inch crush, just to level it up a bit. We'll put a roller in there as well, just to finalize it. Remember that though, that we did take that money from your budget, but BC Hydro is gonna reimburse us, and we put that money back in.
Okay.
Okay?
In full?
Yeah, for the 2 days, yes. Anything else that we want to do now, is, like Matt mentioned, that you guys have some money for hauling some gravel, is that?
Parking lot Crag, I think.
For the parking?
Yeah, and I think John may have already spent it because he gave us an invoice for $900. He had Spectrum Landscaping in to clear
Oh, right.
the
The
base of the parking
Yeah.
lot Crag, yeah.
So there's still chipping to be done as well in there, and the problem with that is originally wanted to chip it, but we need to chip it into a truck because there's a fair bit of invasive as well, so that'll have to be hauled to the landfill and buried. So there'll be an added cost to that.
Actually, on that note, I was gonna meet with the chipping contractor tomorrow morning to look at that site, so are you saying that we should not be using the rolly chipper in there? We need to be
No.
grubbing it and putting it into a bin
We have to look at it
truck?
differently, we're gonna have to truck it out of there.
Oh, yeah, okay,
There's too much of base mixed in with it now,
okay,
so in order for it to be able, if we just chip it, throw it back into the wood, we're just causing bigger problems.
okay,
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to chip it and truck it out, so.
okay. I did approach BC Hydro about them, covering the cost of the chipping and a machine to spread some of that gravel. So maybe we can just reallocate some of that BC Hydro contribution to just grubbing and putting it in a bin truck and hauling it to the
Yeah.
landfill or
Can you
something?
talk to BC Hydro again in regards to getting more money? Or-
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. So BC Hydro, what are they called? The like infrastructure, I suppose, is providing funds,
Mhm.
and then veg management section will also be contributing some.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, as for the Crag work, that's going to, it actually looks pretty good in there, really. John's done a nice job, actually. There's some more material to move around, I think we'll be done tonight on the night shift crew.
Yeah, I
And
saw
then
there's 5 or 6
Yeah.
dump truck loads there. That's gonna all get spread tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably. And then from there, it'll just be the top dressing again, 3/4 inch. And packed because it is gonna be a edge.
It's
So we'll
pretty
do our
mucky
best
underneath
to-
too, yeah.
So you got
Best
a
we
few
can.
quarter-inch crush.
3/4 inch
Overall
crush.
because that is a real.
It's a road base that we use, it really packs well. And
that
we can
whole area
kind of crown it
floods.
so the water will move off.
Yeah, 'cause the whole area is basically a swamp. when it rains.
It's got a fair bit of fill in there now, so I don't know if have you been there? a couple
Yesterday I
days?
checked that, yeah. was we
Yeah.
said.
Passages built through so the water can actually move through it? So
I-
you're gonna be basically creating a dike.
Yeah, we may have to. because we're not-
Oh, there hasn't been anything designed into it?
No, not that I'm aware of, so. There is
That
some-
pit run's pretty porous though, so
Yeah.
it'll probably keep the
It
water
should
table
run
down.
underneath, but we'll see how it goes, but I'll have to have a better look at it, so. You know, I've been working nights, so it's kind of, myself, kind of hard to get there during the daytime and see what John has actually done, so. And I'm back to Monday, yeah, and I got a really busy week next week, but, yeah. So maybe the following week or something.
Yeah, well, it's starting to look really good down there, so yeah, thanks for all the hard work for sure.
I think it was mentioned today that I think with the folks that all, I don't know, still Brian Center, maybe he's got the amount of time and hours, but from what I understand, there's been probably well over 500, 600 hours
Cleaning that rock.
combined, just
Yeah.
cleaning the rock, so volunteer time, so that's pretty extensive actually. Yay.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea what you're doing there, and really, you know, for people that, especially with people with, you know, physical abilities, disabilities, are going to be able to actually access that area, so,
Yeah,
good job.
yeah, I can't believe it was undiscovered for so long.
Yeah.
It's like a mini,
Yeah.
because it's been rediscovered.
Yeah.
We'll probably put some handicap parking in that section too, just in case, a couple spots in the house.
Okay. Chrissy?
I just had a question. There's a note on here that says looking for a new name to this new Crag. And I just wanted to note again, I know we talked about it last meeting, but if there's going to be any name changes proposed, it has to go through the developer first.
Yeah,
I don't think we're the committee that gets to decide if we rename it, so.
I think it's set. I think the name is set, is it not? I think it's going in the guidebook, so
It is.
I think that's the official,
Car Park Crag is the official name.
I think so.
There are worse things.
It's apt.
So back to my list here, just general park maintenance as our contractor usually stays on top of this, that, and the other. Also, the water leak that was thought to be from maybe a municipal source is not. I believe water did go out and investigate, they did leak detection, and they found it to be natural occurring. So that kind of solved that one. The update, which I didn't put on the list here for the wayfinding. what I understand through Gary is that the project is no longer active right now, and they won't be doing anything with it until 2021. So I'm moving further with the wayfinding signage. So it's not like you guys are lost. Yes, but big hill that says Bluffs.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a sign
Yes,
on the highway directing people to Smoke Bluff, so
So
in
that-
2021,
We
we'll,
have that as an agenda item, so we can talk about it a little bit more.
okay.
Okay, and I don't know if you want to talk about the other agenda items, the toilet.
Yeah, we'll work through the,
Okay, so that's the plan.
Okay, moving on to trails update, we already kind of went through the Neat and Cool water leak investigation and the lift that's going on there. I haven't actually seen that yet. And then the trail and stair maintenance below elephantiasis, I think that's what that was referring to. Do you know if the maintenance contractor's been out to think about that
Sorry.
at all? It's there's some stairs that come up from Tunnel Rock that go up towards a crag called elephantiasis.
Are we talking about stairs or
The landscape tie
the
type
landscape
stairs.
tiles? Yeah, right.
Yeah, they've failed.
Yeah, yes. They're almost 15 years old now, so.
Yeah, I think that the maintenance contractor's aware of it. I just don't know if it's a priority or if he's considered.
So it's a landscape plan.
Yeah, it's like a,
Crib steps.
what do you call them?
Crib steps.
Crib steps.
And it's rotted.
Yeah, it's all rotted and fallen apart.
I
and-
know John, that the contractor had done some work.
He wanted me to come over and have a look at it. I will next week, so.
Okay. Okay.
They will know that, sure.
Okay, anything else on the trails update? I think there's a separate, is there a separate section for the deactivation?
Yeah, comes later.
That comes later? Okay. I guess that's it for the trails. Has anybody been hiking around and seen any trail issues that need sort of reporting or blowdown or anything? Everything seems pretty tidy still and water's well controlled. I haven't noticed anything either. All right, Crag work group update?
Yeah, since there's been quite a bit of discussion and clarification as to what's going on at Neat and Cool, that seems to be taken care of. I'll take that out of my report. So moving on to the car park, Crag. This has become a really good project, and a lot of people deserve a lot of credit, but basically four our major route developers have done all the work of remediation of the crag, which is actually a historic crag. It's just come back online. And it's going to be an excellent crag for beginners, and also a social crag in the sense that it will attract families. So the Squamish Trail Society, Squamish Access Society and CASBC have provided funding to help create the base of the crag and provide traffic separation for trials motorcycles and the climbing groups. So it's been generally a very good news story, and it should be noted that this project has been led by John Harvey, our well-known contractor, on his own time. So he's to be commended for the amount of energy he's put into this. He's even got his wife out there working on it. So that's a real win-win situation for us. So I provided anchors as per district policy. We expect to have proper UIA anchors in all our crags. So I provided 5 sets of anchors to the developers to help defray their costs at the district's expense. So that's about it, actually. There's some minor things going on, but not much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Brian. Any comments or anything else to add to any potential crag maintenance issues? No one's seen out there? No one's probably been climbing much. A little bit, a couple sunny days here and there.
Oh, I should add that there's been an ask for a picnic table at the crag, which I think would, given the social nature of the crag, would be a good idea. So.
Yeah, I don't know if we've got money in our budget if we're fully allocated at the Smoke Bluffs committee funding, but that might be something that we could consider as well. I think we still have to fund the porta potties, or the one at Tunnel Rock that we were talking about doing, so I'm not sure what exactly the status is of
I
our...
think wasn't covered by the district.
Is that covered by the district, or is that coming out of our budget?
In the past, the district covered, didn't it?
No, that's your budget.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
I can tell you the price on those picnic tables, because we just put one in at the play park, it was $1,700. They've gone up.
Yeah.
But they're Scoot Company, pretty much vandal proof.
Yeah. Do we have something, quick access, that what our committee budget looks like with the...
Yep, it's $4,840.50.
And the porta potty that we were going to install at Tunnel Rock, we had a quote, I think, last year. I can't remember what it was. Was it like $2,000 or something? Does anybody remember what the number was? Or do we have that?
The monthly rental on a porta potty, I believe, is $155 a month, and that's the rental plus one pump. So if it needs additional servicing and so forth, it would call a person.
So for 6 months, what would that end up being?
900,
900?
150 times 6.
That's only one pump a week here. Busy season, it's going to definitely need more.
So we're looking at like $1,200 maybe or something, kind of rough ballpark.
Probably at 9.
Yeah, I think it's something to consider anyway.
And
Is it-
the location of that would be closer
The-
to
the-
a pump truck to get
Plateau
to.
Drive. right?
Yeah, exactly, up at the tunnel, the reservoir up there. Yeah,
I don't know if GFL will go up there.
no?
I'm not sure we'll have to talk to them.
Okay. Do you want one of us to give him a call, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give him a call.
That didn't take long to get an answer.
The trail junction there might be close enough anyway, just because you get, other
Oh, yeah.
people might use it, like trail users and whatnot, if you're right at that major
Yeah.
trail,
Maybe
that might
Down at
be
the bottom?
down at the bottom.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
not
necessarily
too far
have
to
to
go
be.
from Tunnel Rock, so
Yeah, no, that's a
that
good point.
might work out for, yeah, a lot of users in that area.
Okay, well, I don't have to call him. Can we get the operations department to get that lined up for starting in, what, April 1st or May 1st? Or are we thinking,
You know what?
what's that,
I think April.
April 1st?
April 1st?
We'll try and do it in conjunction with our other toilets that we order
Yeah.
out, because I put it all on one purchase order.
Yep.
And then just kind of, just allocate the account number to them, but we order them all at the same time, so it's like, it has a block, and then when they're gone, that's it, they're gone. And there's not like, at the end of this month we have this, and at the end of the month we have that.
We have
Okay.
one, we'll add another toilet too around that time, right? I think,
We add more
To the-
toilets like at Henderson Fields and.
The parking lot?
You had a second one in the parking lot anyway at that time, yeah.
One right now.
Have you investigated what it actually costs to buy one and just have them provide pumping services?
They'll charge you on the lake.
It's a good question, I think it's worth asking.
Well, because we do have a fair amount out around the community, and that has been a consideration. But then somebody's still gotta clean it, who's gonna go clean it? And usually, we're expecting them to they do the whole full deal. We have nothing to do with the cleaning except for the alcohol toilet paper that people requested. So, but yeah, that's something we have considered for the amount that we have.
Okay, so you guys are gonna get that organized for April 1st, and then when is our next meeting after that? There's a walkthrough this summer, but, I mean, maybe we could, revisit what the cost is looking like for the porta potty and then see how much funds is left in the budget, see if we wanna put it in for a picnic table at the car park, Crag, maybe at that time. Okay.
What kind of picnic table was it? What were you-
It's like a concrete base with timbers on top,
So the one we got-
bolts together.
I think there was one for the
Yeah.
Victor's Garden or
We,
something.
we are working on our memorial tables and benches, and that's kind of what we're looking forward to, is trying to get out of the wood thing altogether. They get burned or they get destroyed.
Yeah, these are pretty hard to set on fire. They're like
Yeah.
4-inch cedar slab timbers.
I have a quick question. You mentioned that you're about to put another porta potty in the main parking lot,
Yep.
and I think I also heard you say you might be putting some handicap parking in down there.
The car park,
At the
correct.
car park. Should we be considering one of those, maybe, just a thought, one of those portable washrooms to be handicapped?
I think one is already.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Can somebody remind me what our meeting schedule is?
Yeah, I was just looking for it, but I couldn't find it. It was in September. I was set the meeting dates. Mike, I emailed that out.
You did, yeah, I'll see if I can find it quickly here.
Thanks.
Is it like June and September the next two? I feel like they were 3 months apart or something, 4 months apart.
I think it was, I have March, May, summer walkthrough, and September.
Got it.
May might be a little early to look at the costs of everything, but maybe in the summer walkthrough, we can just add that to the discussion.
Yeah, might be useful. Usually don't get much done at that meeting.
Yeah.
Might be a good way to use it.
Okay. Okay,
Wait, say that again.
sorry, was that Mike?
I'm just wondering if Asia can say the dates again.
It was May, the summer walkthrough. Does that normally happen in July? And then September.
Okay, the next order of business would be the traffic study that was done.
Do you have the slides for that, Dr. please?
Asia, that's the one that Brian emailed to you, the traffic study that Leo did. Do you have that you could flash out for everyone?
I can run and grab it if
Okay.
you want to have it up there to talk about.
You want to wait for her to run grab it?
Yes, please, it's fairly important stuff.
Okay,
Okay, great.
we can, are we okay to move on and then come back when you?
Yeah, how about you guys talk about the maps?
Yep.
Do you want me, I do have those.
Okay.
Do you want them up?
Yeah,
or
flash the
can it
maps up
be
and,
quick?
yeah.
And I didn't get, sorry, which one would you prefer? Were we looking at the north one or the west?
Helen,
I
which
think
one's the best?
south is the easier one to look at.
Yeah.
Mark is upside down.
Yeah, I don't think there were many changes from the last one.
We hummed and hawed over the viewpoint.
Yeah, we changed the camera back and forth between binoculars.
I was wondering if Skunk Hollow is actually like right where is it right, that crag right below the viewpoint? Where it
Is
says
that-
Smoke Bluff Summit?
Yeah.
Is that-
Oh, you think that crag
That's-
that you can see there is Skunk Hollow?
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh.
wondering.
Is it?
Oh,
I thought that was the slab that runs away from the radio tower, where
yeah,
you can
there's a
see
big
there.
slab there that you, it's kind of flat where the radio tower is.
Yeah, I think Skunk Hollow's pretty hidden. I don't think you can see it from the air.
Okay. Now, are you guys okay with the location of the, oh, I can't see, can you just slide that up a little bit? With the location of the new porta potty we were talking about, the seasonal one?
Oh yeah, it's up at, if
Uh,
we're
do you
gonna
want
put
me
it
to
on the
put it down at the
pavement,
bottom?
maybe if we're gonna put it down the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
Then-
I'll do that.
If GFL can get it up there, that would be an ideal spot.
It would be,
Yeah,
yeah.
it really would, because people really see it when they're moving around.
But that's a
there.
steep hill to, I don't know how big their pumper truck is, you know,
Yeah.
it's a steep hill to go up and it's often wet.
Right.
Yeah, it's got some nice gravel on
It's got
it,
great
but
surface,
it is a little bit
yeah.
Is it?
steep.
Okay.
You spent a fortune fixing that.
Yeah,
Are they gonna wreck it driving up there?
Brian?
The movie industry uses that area quite often and they have no trouble getting fairly large vehicles. up
Okay.
there, so-
We'll
Yeah.
tell them, that's where it is.
There's also,
happy about
I don't know how people feel about it, but there is a big concrete pad for the bike rack there. And I was actually looking at it just the other day, and there may be room for it to sit on half a concrete pad. So it's a really nice level.
Up at the top there, where
Yeah.
where it's shown?
Yep,
More or less?
there's a bike rack right there.
Okay.
It's on kind of an
That's a
oversized
good
concrete
idea.
pad.
We may have to mount it or tie it to a lock block of some sort.
So someone doesn't tip it over?
Someone slide it
So-
down.
So there's no issues.
You can tie it to the bike rack.
We've had that trouble before.
Yeah, you could anchor it to the concrete pad there with a bolt and chain or something, if there's something there that could be used. Leave that up to GFL, they'll figure that out.
Yeah. No, it's usually us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so should I still call GFL then and make sure they can get up there before we,
I would.
okay. I'll uncross that one out. Okay. Jenna?
That was gonna be my suggestion.
Okay. So yeah, this is the map. There might be one minor change with the seasonal porta potty location, but I don't think that there's any changes. I'll try and get in touch with you guys tomorrow, and then if there's nothing else, these can get, I don't know how they get printed or plotted, or if they get put on specific sign board, or if they just get plotted on the roller plotter and then get put up on the kiosk maps.
Can I just?
Spencer?
I know it's. I find I actually have to look at every single little thing to figure out what it is, and because they're all squares, they're all black and white, so it's like a splatter of these same indicators, and I was wondering if it's a thought to maybe change all of the camera ones to, rather than black, put blue, so they're blue and whites. All of the climbing ones would be, you know, dark gray and white. And just so you've got different themes depending on the type of icon it is. It's just a thought. It doesn't, of course, it's not going to change the mechanics of the sign. It's just, to me, it maybe easier to look at if you're looking for a specific thing. Where are all the washrooms?
Yeah.
All the washrooms then are all, you know, green and white, for example.
I think, I mean, I don't know for sure, but maybe just the scale we're looking at it now. I feel like when it's on a big scale, maybe your eyes can kind of move around a little bit easier, and things are looking a bit more spread out, and they kind of set apart from each other on the big full scale. But I don't know, does anyone else agree, or?
I think that the bathrooms definitely should stand out in a different color.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because
Chrissy?
I had the same problem as you.
Yeah.
I think that like when we do our plans at work, when we have too many colors, it's really hard. It's like a color explosion, and it's hard to like focus on one thing. So I like them all in one color, because I think it's like consistency to like something that you're pointing, like a specific item you're pointing out, versus like a bunch of different colors.
Brian?
I think the work that the subcommittee did is excellent. It stands alone by itself. It's fine by me.
Okay.
Are there 8 different icons? Can you just slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
7 icons in a quiet zone and no parking.
Or maybe just pick out the outhouses.
That might be a good one.
Helen, you guys are the experts on this.
Well, 7's a lot of colors.
Seven is a lot.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And any more than 7's pretty much impossible. So if you want, if there's one thing you want to stand out, yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. They make the outhouses, we can make them burgundy or something like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Well-
now, what color do you want your outhouses to be?
Brown.
Yeah, not that shade.
You want them to be brown?
I agree with Laura.
Someone with a red-green deficiency might have trouble with
Sue
that.
added that blue as a standard.
Blue and white.
Blue? Blue? Okay, blue.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay,
true.
everybody's favorite, blue is the most popular color. We'll make
Blue
them
and
blue.
white.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's like the standard washroom color, right? Blue and white. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
so
it's-
sort of like kind of a medium blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay.
So not to get bogged down in kind of how the kiosk sign is going to get actually printed and installed, let's try to approve it pending those changes. So you could craft a motion that says, once these X, Y, and Z changes are made, then we finalize and no need to see it again kind of thing, and then we can take that away and kind of implement it.
Okay. Does would anyone like to motion to adopt the map?
I so moved.
With
Brian
the
adopts the
changes?
map with the expected changes to the bathroom, color, and potentially moving the sign down to the road if GFL can't get up there. You motion that.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone second that? Chrissy seconds that. You get all that? Okay.
And you have to
I
call.
think we have to vote.
Oh, we have to vote?
All those in
Okay.
favor?
So there's a motion, there was a second the motion. All those in favor?
I was going to make one comment before.
Too late.
Oh, you should comment.
Well, I'm like, is it too late?
No, you can still comment.
I look at the map and I understand why we've got the giant green box at the top of the map, but as a usefulness of a map, you've put the most bright. What this map is telling me is where your quiet zones is, not what the crags are. That's what my initial impression is. And I agree why there's just quiet zones, but we've got no pooping on the left. You overlay the entire section, the most heavily used section of the park, with this giant green crisscross, which makes it almost unreadable for that purpose. And I'm just thinking, why it says quite clearly, please be considerate of our neighbours' use, don't poop. It says in the corner, put another sign saying, be considerate of our neighbours. But the green overlay for me just takes away the entire bottom half of the map for legibility. You've just got a giant mesh over the top.
Should we make the mesh less green?
Well, I was just saying, if on the left side it says, please no pooping in the woods, just say, please be considerate of our neighbours as a standard throughout the entire park, and then you don't ruin them out with a giant green mat. That's what I'm seeing when I see it there.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's there. It points out
Yeah, I
that
agree with it
it
in
is a
principle,
quiet
but I
zone.
also want a map.
What's that?
I agree with it in principle, but the map should also function as a map. And the minute the green's on there, I just don't, it stops working the map for me. That was my one thing, that's when I saw it.
Well, I think we're past it.
It was too late.
Thanks, like,
But thanks for the comments.
I agree with Eric, I find it's a blot on the map.
I think it's a valid point. Like when I first started coming to Smoke Bluffs, I would have to look at the book or look at the map to get to a particular crag. Like now we all know where to go, but
It's a privilege.
it is the function of the map.
And anybody who lives near that quiet zone doesn't have a vote.
Well, it should just be an overriding principle.
I'll make
Which
the
is why
mesh
you're
a bit less.
Okay, we'll try and tone down the mesh a little bit.
I find that you can still follow the trails and whatnot, so I don't mind it. And I think, yeah, that's a good compromise. 20 minutes.
Mike?
yeah, I'm strongly in favor of it.
What was our idea?
Well, it wasn't actually. It was brought forward by some emails to the committee.
Okay.
When it came
Oh,
forward,
that's
like,
right, it
that's a
was,
cool
yeah.
idea. So it definitely respects the neighbors that have brought issues up, and I think being someone who lives up there and seeing these emails that have come in, I think it'll make the community feel listened to, which is very important too.
Right.
And to add to someone's point saying it's a little bit hard to look through it, well, that's kind of neat because then you're going to be really searching for the area perhaps if you have a difficult time differentiating the hash and where you're trying to go, and then you can't miss it. So.
Can you actually just get rid of the mesh and use the green outline? And the green word quiet zone kind of indicates stuff within the green circle?
Let's fool around with it
Oh, yeah.
on the screen. We'll see what works best. We'll try and tone it down. Okay. Okay, so we've adopted that map pending changes.
Does not have
Terry,
to
do
come
we
back
need to
here.
formalize that
Yeah.
toning down of the green?
Can
Can
I
we just
just-
say tone down the green?
Can I just get a approval of the mover, which was Brian, to amend that motion to include toning down the green?
Yes.
Friendly amendment.
So,
Thank you.
Do we have to make a new motion?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have to vote again?
No.
Do we have to take that to council? Okay. Next order of business would be the wayfinding signage.
Should we jump back up to the car?
Oh, sure, yeah. Brian, is that good?
Could we have the graph as one of the most important things?
Is that the spreadsheet?
No, it's a graph that,
The bottom.
yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of background to this. In the spring of 2017, I was asked by the Ford Kelsey family to be a mentor for their son who's taking on a Duke of Edinburgh Award project. And since I have for a number of years carried out with Jim Sinclair informal traffic count in Smokeless Park during the busy summer period, and I thought it might be a good idea to try and formalise a study. So I asked Leo to take on this project, and these are the results. This is 2017, it was which was very smoky, so you could see peculiar anomalies in there in August, which probably is accounted for by the smoke. But out of this comes, I'm talking to Mark Bourdon, whose new guidebook is coming out. He thinks we could safely consider 2.5 people per car, given that climbing is a buddy sport and few people come here by themselves. So if we go with 2.5 people per car and we round up a busy weekend day to 100, which is not unreasonable because he hasn't taken into account illegal parking, walk-ins, cycle-ins or anything else, strictly the scope of the parking lot, we could easily be looking at 250 to 300 climbers. And I say climbers, the vast majority of the people covered in this graph period would be the climbing community. You might be tempted to think that, wow, that's a lot of people. For example, we could have as many as 500, 700 on a busy long weekend, over 2 days. However, anecdotally, I have walked through the park on the busiest weekends just out of curiosity to see how the park is standing up to these growing numbers. And surprisingly, it's quite quiet because there's been a huge increase in the number of crags. There are now upwards of 600 new routes will be published in Squamish Select next month. That's 600 routes, and that does not include routes that could be redeveloped, which fall into disrepair. Borden figures there might be another 100 or more routes, so we could possibly be looking at 700 routes in the next year or two. That's an enormous amount of routes, and a great amount of new crag development has spread people out very nicely. So I would urge you to take a walk through there on a very busy day and come back and tell me the park is overrun or overwhelmed. But certainly the car park is overwhelmed on occasions, even the expanded car park. But certainly the park does not feel overwhelmed by any count. So if you have any questions on these numbers, I think you're mostly answered. It's fairly self-evident.
Yeah, that's some nice work by.
Very nice
Leo.
over your
Yeah.
man should be commended for. It was a very nicely done job. So.
He was out there, was it every weekend?
Yep.
Collecting the info?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I brought it up because we had discussions of tourism, Squamish, etc. This is somewhat important data for me. Thank you. That's all
Okay.
right.
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
I can send the data to,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Fantastic. Okay. Wayfinding signage update, did we already cover that, Asia? There is no update?
So the update is that there is no budget for this year or next year. So the earliest would be 2022, and that's, I think, likely a big if. But we have been doing signage throughout the district. When we can scrabble together funds for it, and when it's prioritized or spearheaded, if there's somebody who chooses to champion it and they focus on it, you can kind of make stuff happen. So I just wanted to put it out there, even though there isn't budget within the district's formal budget. If you guys have a vision and you want to see this happen, then we can try to work to make it happen. And if anybody is interested, I can get some pricing of the signs that we've been doing lately. That might be of comparable size and design to what you might want to see, just so you can get an idea of what it might cost to put in a sign. And I'm thinking the entrance signage, not any other kind of sign. Like we do have these beautiful signs in Junction Park, and they're on these elaborate bases, and those are lovely, but they're not that directional necessarily signage. So I just wanted to plant the seed that if someone is wanting to champion this, I'm happy to follow up and provide additional information on it.
I can't remember who maybe brought it up. I think it's been brought up for several years, but I think the discussions in the past were that it was a fairly large sign that says Smoke Bluffs Park. Like, not just a little highway sign that says Smoke Bluffs Park. So like, we were talking something substantial. Something like Rose Park, like a large wooden sign or arch or something fairly large. And
we have a couple signs that you might want to drive by. The municipal campground sign on loggers, or the other sign for the TMX. Have a look at those. They're about $700.
okay,
Fairly large.
and that's like 2 wooden posts with some wooden beams inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a nice design to it too. So.
Yeah.
Have a look at those, and they kind of fit within the wayfinding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does something that we propose have to fit necessarily into your strategy?
Well, have a look at it.
Okay.
Our tax dollars are paying for
Colors
branding.
too.
That's true. Yeah, we want those to go to good use. Okay. Yeah, we don't need another subcommittee or anything to figure out what they want for a sign, but I mean, think about it for the next time we all sit down and see if anyone wants to spearhead that a little bit more. Okay, thanks. Encroachment on northern park boundary.
Yeah, so this was a small item that was brought up in the January meeting, just from looking at the kiosk maps that showed that the landscaping company to the north could potentially be encroaching, and so we dug into it a little bit, and it does appear that they actually are encroaching, and so I just wanted to provide a quick follow-up to the committee to let you guys know that we're gonna reach out to the landscaping company to alert them to the situation and to ask them if they wanted to enter into potentially an encroachment agreement or a leasing agreement with the district to use that land or vacate it.
Okay, do you have a map that shows where that's happening?
I would probably just open this one again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oops. I'll get there eventually. So it's this area here. Yeah. So technically that's district park land and they are using it, so it's pretty straightforward. We'll ask them what they want to do and go from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for following up with that. That's interesting, yeah. I don't think anybody knew that's exactly where the boundary was.
What's really interesting is the reason why parking lot Crag was abandoned, because we were told by them that we were on their property and we were to stop developing that Crag like 15, 20 years ago. So,
Before
good to
GIS
reclaim it.
existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I'd forgotten that part, thanks.
Yeah.
Is there a Japanese knotweed infestation right at the base of the fill of that road slope right there? Or is that?
There is knotweed infestation, and so part of a potential encroachment agreement would involve rules around how they manage that. Yeah. Otherwise, it will fall on the district to manage.
Okay. I mean, just, it's doesn't look to me like they're having a major impact on the park, but that knotweed infestation is huge. So, I mean, that reason alone would be, I think, enough to try and force them to do something about it.
Yeah. And apparently there is a little bit of riparian, like very low-grade riparian areas, so any kind of encroachment agreement would address both of those environmental issues.
Okay. What's sort of the timeline for something like that? Have you already given them?
We haven't.
Okay.
But yeah, well, I don't know. Not quick.
Yeah, like a year or something kind of thing?
Less than that. Yeah.
Less than that, okay. Brian?
Yeah, it's just, we did have an infestation at the entrance of the parking lot. It's at the bottom end of the parking lot, just going up the trail systems, and it wasn't a very big infestation, but it was an astonishing amount of work to get rid of.
Yeah.
So this stuff is really...
It's bad. Yeah. Spencer?
So it's the landscape company using that piece of property. Are they not leasing from Huckleberry, who has the mineral lease?
I think we're gonna reach out to whoever's registered on the title of the property, the owner of the property.
Okay. And do we know that's the landscape company?
It's some landscape company.
Okay, I didn't want to bring up names, but, and that, so the piece of land that they're coming from, encroaching into the park, does that also extend to where some of the other trails are that we use to that side? And if we cause a fuss about them on the other side of that berm, are they going to cause, or could they cause a fuss with us using land over on the other side potentially?
That's not in the park?
It's not in the park, but is used, in conjunction with the park by hikers, climbers, dog walkers, trials riders, mountain bikers. Is this opening up a can of worms that maybe is not worth opening up? Is a thought. I don't know what the boundaries are, I don't know the ownership.
Yeah, it sounds like two
Crown
separate
land.
issues.
I think there's a narrow band of crown,
But it's under mineral lease, I thought, is what it is.
which means that basically if it's under mineral lease, they can throw up a chain link fence and keep everyone out.
Are you suggesting that we should not
I think I
send the
suggest-
notice
I
for
suggest-
fear of them closing the trails?
Potentially want to investigate a little bit further as to potential risks of doing this. Is it really an issue for us that on the other side of a massive berm, there's a little road, which we can't see, and it's not impacting any of the park users, it's not impacting the parking lot itself, it's not impacting climbing routes or trails. So what they're doing really has zero impact on us for all intents and purposes. The risk, on the other hand, is, as I've stated, there is potential risk for us bringing this up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I don't think that there's much impact. The road being there is, for my concerns, that knotweed infestation is more of a concern than the road being encroaching on the park a little bit.
Absolutely
So
agree.
if there was maybe some way to reframe it that we don't want invasives in the park rather than trying to blast a new road, get their switchback into a different place. Maybe it's a bit of a easier sell.
Well, I think that road to the north of the parking lot's on the flats, right beside the hydro tower. That's not the switchback that is to the right of the right-hand corner, right?
No? Isn't there, it looks like there's rock in the middle of that switchback,
I think
but
it's
it's hard to tell.
stored.
Oh, yeah.
Because the switchback that they've actually cut to get up into the upper parking area that's visible below the word page view, that's just to the right of that right hand where the eastern boundary and the northern boundary meet at the point. You can see the road and the switchback right there. That piece that's infringing on the park is right against the north boundary. That's on the flats.
What does everyone else think about not approaching the landscaping company for fear of having trail access possibly restricted? Councillor Stone?
I think that that's a staff decision now that we're aware of it. So I would like to leave that with staff and let them approach the owners as they see fit, knowing that this conversation has happened.
Okay. Chrissy, you were going to say something?
I was going to say that it's probably not our decision.
Yeah. I mean, staff does take recommendations from the committee, so if anyone has anything that they'd like to say in support or against, they probably want to hear that.
And to be clear, I didn't say we don't. All I said, I just believe it requires some more investigating.
Okay, so you guys will take that into consideration. Okay. Okay. The mini community library installation. This is actually something that some neighbors of mine in Hospital Hill wanted to do, and they actually already got a grant from somewhere, I'm not sure where, but just to buy materials to build a little community library, just like a little 2 feet by 1 foot free exchange library box. What's that?
Climbing guidebooks.
They would not stay there very long if there's climbing guidebooks in there, but it's maybe one on the chain or something.
What's an obvious
Oh,
question
that's
is
a good
where's the
place to put
location?
my old ones.
Yeah, so what we were thinking about installing it just by the kiosk next to the play park.
I think it's good, like,
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, does anyone else disagree? It's basically for Hospital Hill users, but I mean, that's the closest neighborhood, but it would serve the rest of the community as well if anyone was walking by. There's a few more of them in the community. There's like half a dozen in Squamish or something.
Plateau Crescent's down.
Does it?
yeah, I'm fine.
I'm
Eric?
fine with that. My one reservation would be if it gets vandalized, the people in Swan are also responsible for repatching it up or taking it back down. My concern would be it gets smashed, it looks like garbage house, and we're left with this eyesore. So if you put it up, great, but if it gets vandalized, we don't want that. They're responsible to fix it.
Yeah. Is there a policy on things like this? It is district property, and there's a history of them being around.
If it gets smashed, we'll remove it.
Okay.
Yeah. We do monthly maintenance, monthly inspections.
Oh yeah.
That'll be part of it, and if it's damaged or anything like that, we will remove it, yeah.
Okay. And does the district have any objections to stuff like that happening?
I have some messages. I did bring this up with Gary, and he did pass along that in the past we've struggled with this from a long-term management perspective. He said that they do tend to get neglected and can become problematic over time, and so his suggestion is that you consider locating it really close to the street and where the playground is, so that it's kind of in a really highly visible area. But yeah, also if it does fall into disrepair, people have to be okay with it kind of just being taken out.
Okay. Is there like a requirement to have someone be personally responsible for it, or is it just kind of up to everybody to?
It's probably, we won't be.
There should be a steward. I think operationally, through what came through operations, is that operations wasn't in favor of it, and they should technically be put on private property, and there should be a steward to take care because some of that stuff winds up being, somebody needs to, care for the maintenance, not only the box, but I guess what goes inside, and so forth, contents, yeah.
So your contact person, would you potentially approach them about asking if they wanted to be the steward?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Could we also request that it's made of corrugated steel instead of wood, so over time it doesn't rot or break, or is a little bit more vandalism resistant? If that is a concern. It's not something I thought of, but
Yeah.
It might take away from that.
Aesthetically,
Cool.
pleasing or something. Kind of nice to, the way they got like a little cedar roof on them and
Oh,
everything
cool.
else. They actually look really nice when they're done.
Yeah, we're still kind of playing around with the design, but it was gonna be
Disregard
wood.
that.
I
Yeah.
thought they were made of old phone booths.
Yeah, or canoes or something. Yeah. Right?
It seems to me that in the event that it does become problematic, how big a deal is it to remove?
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth trying. If it's a problem, we can take it out of there. I think it's a good idea.
The upsides seem much higher on a community library than the downsides.
Yeah. Okay. So do we need to make a motion that this is okay to do, or can we just kind of do it?
Okay to do with the steward, or the steward assigned to it,
Yeah. Okay. We'll assign a steward to it and proceed ahead with the construction and installation at the kiosk.
Just need a motion.
Okay. So if we just want to look at the map, maybe just scroll up a little bit. It's basically across from the play park.
Can't find it because of the green box.
Good business.
It's right under the giant question mark.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, on the top side of the trail. Like right where the cursor is now, kind of. That's where we're thinking anyway. It's kind of off the trail, but there's already a kiosk there, and there's a bench.
Could be contact information for somebody to,
Yeah, would you want contact information like on the box itself, or do you want to just
No, just
No.
give it to
maintain that
us.
internally?
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that
Okay.
we're probably gonna wind up fielding and calls if there's inappropriate material put in it and so forth, and that's something we're just not prepared to really deal with. So that's why we weren't excited.
Is,
It's a great idea.
does that happen with the other ones?
Yep.
Okay.
They get vandalized or they just get old?
We found needles and stuff, and
Oh.
kids put their hands in there.
Or inappropriate material.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll forward on who the community library steward will be. Okay. Sweet. We did the park use study, future trail building discussion. So I think there was some wording in one of our earlier meetings about having a moratorium on new trail construction. This is just my opinion, but I think that wording might be a little bit too strong. There's already sort of very limited new trail construction that goes on in the park. And all new trails that are built in the park, I feel like should be consulted with the committee anyway, just as a general rule. I don't know if that's in the management plan or not, but I feel like that's how it sort of should be.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll actually read the section of the management plan. So the plan says for under trail development, any new trail development within the park should be authorized by the Smoke Bluffs Park Advisory Committee and the District of Squamish prior to any route clearing or trail construction. Unauthorized trail building and structure construction is not permitted within park boundaries. And I do feel strongly like this totally addresses the situation. There should be no unauthorized trail building, and if so, then the district should deal with that. So
Yeah.
I don't see a need for kind of the committee to get involved kind of above and beyond that statement.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like it's already in place with the condition that nothing will happen without this committee's input. Okay, Mike?
I think it was Spencer that brought that up, so he's not here, so I'm just extrapolating what I thought he was trying to get at from listening to him last time. I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like when he was saying this before, he wanted to see this feasibility study that we're now going to undertake, or park user study, and get a sense of what was going on before we did more. I think that's where he was trying to go with it. Is that other people's interpretation? Yeah. So I think that's why I think he was trying to say, let's not do any more until we know what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Brian?
But the east trail to the summit has been in the management plan or in the plans for this park from day one. Okay, it's not an addition to the park, it's part of the overall plan for the park. It's been there since before the park, even in the development plan that was mentioned. So I don't understand why we're decommissioning a trail and spending money on reforestation on a trail that needs to be built at some point in time to make full use of the upper part of the park.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
So the decommissioning aspect was for the safety, really the safety component of it, with the trails intersecting quite dangerously with some of the trails and the existing trails that were there. And so, yeah, the trail to the radio tower has been in the plans for a very long time, and we're not proposing to remove that or modify the management plan, which is what we're all following.
Just want to clarify that, sure.
It's probably a heated issue for a later time, Brian, but I would possibly even argue in terms of trails that sometimes in this park we don't actually have a trail problem, we have a signage problem. And on a short-term basis, I think we can do a lot with improved signage actually. Because I can't recall, but I think there's currently already about 5 ways to the summit. So do we need 6? Or do we need
That's
signs?
what we were trying to address.
I mean, it's a big topic. There's a lot going on with that one. And I think that's maybe why Spencer was proposing a temporary hold on these sort of some stuff.
Chrissy?
Yeah, I just want to, I think that issue specifically should be addressed when we do decide as a committee we want to bring up phase 2 and how we deal with the planning and the consultation for phase 2. But I also think that we shouldn't be changing anything other than the management plan. That specifies it very clearly that people shouldn't be building trails, and that puts it back to us and to the district. So I don't think we need anything else. Additionally, signage is something we can always be considering every year, and it's on our ongoing management or maintenance priorities, I believe. So I think it's something we should look at, but I also think the signage will be addressed when we look at phase 2 and how we want to move forward with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that they both go hand in hand. The trail's already planned to go somewhere to get to the summit, and there is some approved signage that can happen out there, so, yeah, and as far as the moratorium goes, I mean, we're not building any trails without consideration by the committee, so there's almost a de facto moratorium until, you know, we've decided that it's time. Okay, probably it for that. Human animal waste options, solutions, and urine diversion toilets feasibility. Asia?
I might pass this on to Sue. Did you want to speak about the toilet issue at all, or?
Just that, unless we can, it's an expensive venture to do, and unless we can connect into a sanitary system, it's not feasible. And today with Vancouver Social Health, I think everything has to be in a sealed container.
I'm sorry, I cut you.
Everything has to be sealed, like the rules have changed when it comes to these toilets and so forth. I mean, even as it is, at some point, I know you had spoken last meeting that there's one that even though it's up there is getting at capacity, and it may just have to be decommissioned, you know.
Apparently there's still a bit of room.
Yeah, I had a look at it. It looks like it's not totally full just yet. I think, I mean, I think we talked about this last time about maybe someone going and sprinkling some lye in there or something. Like, is that something that the district could do in their maintenance budget just to try and maybe take a bit more life out of it?
Actually, buying lye is very.
It is. I tried to buy some, then they were like, we don't sell it.
We may be able to purchase it, but that would, but a typical person is buying it, no. We
Okay.
sell them to everybody.
So it's just, so really it's, unfortunately, that toilet need is not able to happen.
Just to speak to that point, it's a bit of a funny one to think that just because it seems odd to me that we can't have people doing it in one spot, because it's not going to stop people from doing it. It's still going to happen, and it's just going to be all over the place, which becomes quite a disgusting public health hazard. It's actually kids and dogs and wild animals and all sorts of things will get into it. So I do think there's a real sense of urgency to address it. And it's fine if that particular solution is a no, but I think it's very important that we find a yes, because otherwise it's going to happen all over the park. So that's okay if that's a no, but what is the yes?
But that's something I can't answer. I mean, like I said, you know, for doing something at the bottom, we talked about putting something more permanent at the bottom, but until, you know, I think the closest.
I think we did look at the bottom, but the problem with that was the force main too.
The closest is the adventure center.
So we would have to actually run it all the way up to the adventure center. Look into that.
Asia, you were going to say something?
I was just gonna backtrack a bit to say, I think when this was brought up in the January meeting, we were like, this is such a big topic, let's not talk about it, we'll push it to the March meeting. But I think that the point was to put it out to all the different groups to come up with potential solutions or options to address it. It wasn't putting it on the district staff to come up with how we think we can solve the problem. So it was like, let's have a discussion as a group and let's make it productive and bring back ideas to the table. So I just think that maybe we all need to think on it and have a discussion that is a bit more balanced of like what are the potential options or solutions.
Jenna?
Yeah, just to follow on what Asia just said, I think that would also, having a productive conversation like that and really narrowing down what the options are could potentially put us in better line for a budget ask next year. And so there isn't a huge urgency because it's not in this year's budget, but it is something that we will have to address if we come up with a really clear ask. This is what we need. These are the options that we've identified, that we've scoped, and these are the ones that we think are the most feasible. Then I think that puts that in a clearer position for a budget ask next year.
Maybe we could explore what BC Parks pays to maintain their backcountry toilets up at Red Heather with flying out the waste in drums with a helicopter versus building a brand new composting toilet up at Octopus Garden. I mean, building a regular outhouse with a self-contained barrel system is probably fairly cheap in comparison to the composting toilet, but I'm not sure how often they fly the waste out. I don't know what the overall.
Can we fly over the slope of the park? Does anybody know?
There's often machines in there doing work. I think it is okay. Yeah.
Hydro is now.
Constantly.
Yeah, it's worth specific.
I don't think there's any restrictions.
Brian, I think last time I heard you were mentioning that you might be doing a little bit of research into the composting toilet, so you already knew a fair bit about it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot,
It's a
sorry.
bit of a sore topic.
Okay.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I have considerably experienced these things. Squamish Access Society, this committee actually many years ago authorised the first one, which we have in the park, which is not truly a composting toilet because it's plumbed into the system, but the mechanism is the same. However, Squamish Access Society has installed one here in the park. It works beautifully, but there's a fair degree of maintenance for these toilets, not just pumping them out and from time to time. You have to have somebody go there once a week and pour in some fluid, and you have to sort of have somebody go there maybe once, or depending on usage, once or twice a year to rake the current pile to the rear of the catchment to allow the composition to keep going. There's, like I say, I think I'm a big fan of these things. The public love them, they don't smell. There's also advantages, but there is a maintenance issue. Why I say it's a sore point right now, I'm fighting with parks as to who's going to do the one at Urine in terms of maintenance. And it's a bit of a problem. So
would it be fair to ask our maintenance contractor to do this? Does that
That's a long way to hike.
It's quite a different thing what it's doing to already.
Just if I can interrupt on that one, I did speak with Dan Glover regarding that one, and he said it would not be suitable for where where it would be
too far
requested.
Because of the amount of maintenance
It
required.
just wouldn't be suited. So I did do that much and contact him because my understanding was this was but unless it's an entirely sealed units, BCH will not approve them. If the rules have changed a lot around pit toilets or however.
So just
Kristen?
clarification. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
One thing I'm thinking is that I think it is up to the committee to come up with solutions, but I also don't think we're necessarily the right people to be making those recommendations. Like I think maybe if the district could come back to us with options, then as an advisory committee we could decide what works for the park. But I think I think we're trying to make decisions that we don't have the expertise to make, and we can all go and look in parks and see what might work, but it's kind of a waste of time because we're coming back and we're talking about these options that could be completely infeasible. So is it possible for someone at operations to come with us and say, okay, we have like 3 options. This is the most expensive, not looking feasible, this is an option, this is an option. Because ultimately, it's not necessarily, like we have a park budget, like a $5,000 park budget, but it is also on the district to provide adequate restroom facilities for their park users too, right?
And so we have the one at the top, which, and what we've got at the bottom, somewhere in between.
That's
That's
even something to
challenging.
replace the one at Octopus's Garden.
I mean, ultimately, it needs to be, from what I understand, a urine diversional toilet, which will need to connect into sewer. And it's not that it can't be done, it's just that the dollars to go with it.
So is it possible for some solution, like other solutions to be recommended? Because I think we're going around in circles on this issue. We're like trying to fund porta potties. We've been coming up with the urine diversion. We brought it to council 2 years ago. This is going in circles. So I think we need a little bit more guidance on how we move forward with providing adequate facilities for the park users.
I think until the development, but it's my understanding as well, until the development actually happens further down Loggers Lane and sewer can be brought up further, it's an expensive venture, and we're looking at, from what I was told last year, around $250,000 to run sewer along Loggers Lane.
People in Loggers Lane, Ravens Drive and whatnot, are they on septic fields then? So
some are on wells too.
Yeah, so is that an option though, to put in a septic field for a toilet in an area? Like I don't know how big a septic field would need to be, but it could be.
It's bedrock there though, right?
Yeah, you're not going to do this.
Yeah, you'd have to blast a septic field in, I think.
Is there an above ground?
It has to be a
Above ground
escape
tank
route
option
Yeah.
maybe, but I mean,
septic to move, right?
And burgers and fries do the same thing
Yeah.
down that area there.
It's all rock.
Helen?
Suzanne, what you've said so far I found quite useful in terms of sort of the requirements for toilets. Could the district maybe, given the knowledge and expertise you have of what, you know, Vancouver Coastal Health requires and all that, sort of provide us with a list of options, you know, outhouse must be completely sealed unit, and therefore we know that would require probably a helicopter to remove change the buckets. Urine diversion toilet requires connection to sewer system. So you spell out all those options, so then we sort of know, rather than going around in circles, we sort of have options that we know what the requirements are, and maybe some vague budget, you know, what it might cost, or a range of what it might cost, and then we'll have something more concrete to talk
Well,
about.
that 250K, that was
Yeah.
a cost for.
Yeah, so if you give us a list of that, and then we can kind of go, oh, that's sweet, expensive.
So are we specifically talking about replacing the Octopus Garden outhouse? Is that like our main concern? Are we happy with the level of service with the porta potties that we have around now?
And then there's also the one that's sort of there. That's
Like Crack Rock there?
yeah. So that would probably be a good place for one too.
Yeah, that one's still serviceable, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
If we want to be specific with the district though, should we say, let's figure out an option to replace the Octopus Garden one, or is there something that's more pressing? I mean, 250 grand to put in a proper flush toilet at the parking lot maybe is not something we want to try and push. It doesn't sound like we'd get it, but
the Octopus Garden one could be a helicopter service toilet.
mhm.
Is that something that we're willing to consider? Is it something potentially within our budget?
Yeah. So Vicky Habrel at Parks might be someone to contact to see about what they experienced with that one they have up at Red Heather. That's been there for decades. They just rebuilt it.
Vicky retired.
She retired. Oh, okay.
That's right.
Whoever her replacement is.
That's easy enough to find out.
Yeah. Karen?
Kara Pledge, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, someone over there at Parks would have all the knowledge about that thing because they've spent.
And is it helicopter service?
It's helicopter serviced. Yeah, and I don't know how often they service it, but I think it's just once or twice a year. Once in the fall and once in the spring or something.
For cleaning and everything, so forth.
I think that they manage the barrels inside and then they bring the heli in and remove them when they're full. They have like 3 or 4 that they rotate through.
That's the next thing for like cleaning and maintenance, like that's a whole other big deal too, like to get water up there and go fresh and clean. I remember many moons ago when those toilets were first put in, I was the gal that hiked up there with a bucket of water. Not a pleasant job. But,
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of experience, so they have a wealth of knowledge that you guys could draw upon to try and come up with a solution for the outhouse that's almost full at Octopus Garden. And there's a lot of people up there. It's like a moderate crag that sees a lot of traffic. If that outhouse wasn't there, it would be disgusting up there, I think.
Let's not forget that's been there for going on 8 years at least minimum, so it's done well.
Yeah. Mike?
Could we look at, could you explore the option of getting a little bit of lye to put in there? Because it sounds like it's not something the general consumer can go out.
Oh, okay.
Sure, cool.
If we have to
Maybe a
apply
nice
for-
very short-term solution.
we have to apply for a permit.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to council to explore other options, or is staff gonna kind of just do it without a motion? I don't know.
I think we hold off on the motion until we know specifically what we want.
Okay.
And then we can put it in like a proper budget ask.
Yeah, because it's more of a staff thing than a council
but not
thing, I guess, at this
budget
point.
asked last year at some point, and I think Gary had come back and it was actually said that there's this ginormous cost that goes with it. And it kind of died on the vine after that point, and now we're revisiting it again. So-
I don't think we explored the helicopter serviced option.
No, we didn't, that wasn't explored. That'd be,
Okay. To be discussed further? Barry, did you want to chat about the park gate closure time extension anymore, or is it still we want to extend it till 11, I believe it was, in the summer?
Well, I thought the discussion was gonna go to staff, and staff's gonna report back to the committee.
Oh, he wants you to come and sit at the mic.
Like,
table.
or you have to- yeah.
Sit next to Tom. Don't peek at my notes. Yeah, I thought the understanding was that staff were gonna look at it and come back to the meeting with some suggestions.
Our bylaws, park bylaws, state all parks, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. close.
Okay, but this isn't technically a park though, is it?
that's true.
10 PM, sorry,
10
close
PM
from
to
10
6 a.m.
PM to 6 AM.
Close, yeah.
10 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can extend it to 10?
No, it is.
It is till
It
10
is
a.m.
Oh, it is till 10.
You want
You want to
to,
extend it
Want it
to
to
11?
11,
Yeah.
right.
he's saying they can't.
Can I ask why
Can I just-
till, what
can I
is it, the need till 11 PM?
Because
it's
some of,
dark.
we've had comments from climbers that they'd like to go to dark, and dark is around 10 o'clock. So they can't get out before.
If we switch to standard time, then that problem's.
Yeah.
Eric?
We'll all be dead when that happens. So,
They don't start coming down off.
all I'm saying is
from
that
9:30
the property owner would like to have access to their property.
You mean the car owners would like to have access?
No, the Federation of Mountain Clubs.
Oh, okay.
That own the property would like to have access to our property.
Between 10 p.m. and 6
10,
a.m.
11 at night.
Okay. Eric?
Technically, I don't think we're parked yet. So to say we fall under the bylaw, I'd love to fall under that bylaw, you'll make it an officially a park. But as we're not a park, the land's owned by FMBC, therefore if they want to leave the gate open, doesn't that solve that problem by FMBC saying it's our land? So,
Then if that's what they want, then they can lock the gate and open the gate and all that. Are they willing to do that?
I'm sure we could find a custodian willing to do it.
It's way beyond my bedtime.
Well, it's not technically a park, so it doesn't fall under the bylaw.
yet.
Okay.
So all we need to do is find an individual that would be willing and able to lock up at 11 o'clock between, what are we talking about, May to September, right?
Yeah.
And someone who is willing to take on any liability associated with not
So
locking the park at the time? And
We already do.
And if there's some, that.
Somebody in
sick,
there, somebody's gonna wake up and go unlock it. That's it.
You're giving me the reasons why we can't do it. I'm looking for the reasons why we can.
Yeah, but these are the reasons that we have to deal with, right?
I
I mean,
understand.
it would cost staff to go out and open that gate if somebody got locked in there. Because you cannot lock somebody in behind a gate unless that person is on the outside of the gate with that key.
Okay, but that problem exists now, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah,
Right, no matter what time that gate's closed, if there's a vehicle inside, they're gonna get trapped inside.
They'll
It's
probably-
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, or 11
They'll
o'clock.
probably bill for our services though too.
the security company would bill us each and every time.
Yeah. Which you would then pass on to the owner of the vehicle, right?
If they were beyond the extended time on the
Yes.
sign, then there's, somebody's gotta pay for that. It's a 4-hour call and however slice it at the overtime rates.
I guess they gotta read the time on the sign.
Well, what happens these days when someone gets locked
We
in?
don't have an issue with that right now.
It's not an issue.
So why would it be an issue if it was an hour later?
It's, we have issues with it, I mean, but the security company that locks it, basically, they go in and get the people out, right? So try to at least chase them up.
Can the security company to do it later? Because we're not breaching a bylaw, so then just have to change the time of the security company, that 24 hours on. Just say,
So
hey,
we're-
make this a different.
Sorry?
Janet, do you want to say something?
I I don't know the bylaws in and out, but there is also just general quiet hours, and it is a park that is neighboring substantial amounts of neighborhood areas. Most of our public spaces are quiet after 10 p.m. without an event permit. And so, although it may not be a designated park at this time, it is still public space. And so access to our public spaces are often restricted after 10 p.m. So I don't know the exact bylaw language, but it would require some more detailed analysis of that, where it's at.
The FMCBC lands are a little bit farther away from the parking lot. The parking lot is in the park, or the whatever the yellow square is on the map, district property. So I don't know if, the public space bylaw, maybe if there's a quiet time bylaw, that I don't know if that overrides the fact that it's not a park. But Mike?
As a resident, I can speak, and I also completely respect what you're saying, because it is your land, so I'm not trying to dispute that. It's fair game what you're saying. Living up there and also hearing kind of recent increases in complaints for noise, and speaking on behalf as a resident up there, as a resident at large, I would just have to vocalize that that would be a concern and something that needs to be addressed if parking was expanded.
Well, from the Federation's perspective, we're very disturbed by the noise that the residents make. I'm kidding. But what I'm asking is for some sort of a quid pro quo here for a period of time, so that climbers can have the ability to get off the crags by 10 o'clock, so they don't get locked in. And it's because we've had a number of requests. So
Can I suggest a solution that they park at the adventure center and then just need to walk an additional short distance? Why wouldn't you just not park in the parking lot if you're going to be in the park past the time the gate closes?
You don't often know what time you're getting out. Sometimes you're.
There's also limited parking at convention centers.
Just an idea.
It's an option for sure.
yeah, if you have an option, that would be appreciated, and that way we could put it out there.
Just for clarification, is it district staff who lock the gate, or is it Black Tusk? Black Tusk does. Okay. And they probably do their circulation every hour or so for security?
No, once it's locked, they don't come back.
Oh, okay.
No, they could be there at, 10 o'clock, they could be there at 10:30.
Yeah, Black Tusk does their school too, and I know they come by, but a school's different.
But yeah, the parking lot, they just lock it, leave, and then come back at 6 o'clock.
Okay. But, so it might be an option, just to ask Black Tusk for a certain period of time to do 11 o'clock maybe instead, float it by them.
And to speak to the issue that Michael raises, I mean, if there's an issue with rowdyism, noise, and bad behavior, then we'll kick their asses out at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But, let's give it a try. I mean, these people are probably going to respect the fact that there's neighbors next door.
And the map is addressing it now too. So there are measures in place.
Yeah.
Mike raises an important issue though too, because there are sometimes people climbing up at Penny Lane with headlamps and enjoying it. And of course at nighttime you really have to communicate to your belayer down there, so you're shouting and they might not necessarily, they probably are going to park somewhere up in the neighborhood because it's closer anyway. So the parking lot issue isn't huge for them.
That's some of the other complaints.
But but if we can accommodate it with just contacting Black Tusk and asking them to close the park at the gate, lock the gate at 11, and then keeps everybody happy.
And if there's an issue, then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, why not try it?
Yeah.
Chrissy?
It is something to consider that if, like closing it at 10 might push people to parking in the neighborhood areas we don't want people parking. Like if people know the gate's gonna close at 10 and they wanna park after hours, then they'll just park up in Hospital Hill, right?
So you're saying they need to reduce kind of parking?
Like, it may further exacerbate the parking issues we're seeing in Hospital Hill during those hours, during like the
So
summer
you're saying if we
times.
go to 11, it might actually reduce some of the problems we're having?
Potentially.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
It could actually. It could be kind of.
Gets out of your neighborhood.
One more thing, the other problem that you may encounter is the camping. If we're open later down there, that's when they'll start pulling in. And now we're paying the security to actually move them up. So he's gonna charge us each time he has to knock on the door or ask people to move, so.
What sort of time period were you thinking about trying to get it extended? Because it's, I mean,
Summer
10 o'clock
months,
dark's
May-
only
May
like
to
July,
September-
August,
May to
right?
September.
It's dark well before 10 in May though. July, August?
So, daylight saving time tomorrow, or I mean Sunday. So,
June, July, August? Like, I don't think
June,
it's.
July, August. Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
we,
let's do it like that.
do we want to maybe see if the district can just finalize their review of the bylaws and see if it's possible to extend the time period from 11 to 6 instead of 10 to 6 for a 3-month period from June, July, August? And then see if Black House can move their times, if it's possible.
Sure, that'd be great.
And then just monitor it. 'Cause I don't.
Yeah, if there's an issue, let us know. And we'll go back to standard time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for your members, but I wouldn't want to be the person there trying to shoo everybody out on your volunteer time when there's people trying to camp or like not leave the parking lot. Okay, I nominate Helen.
When she's here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could give it a try, it'd be really appreciated. I know, I heard it from a number of different people, so I just say, let's see what it's like. I mean, if there's no problems, then it's not a problem. If there is a problem, then we'll make one.
So a little trial period.
Sure.
This year, see how it goes.
Yeah, see how it goes.
Okay, as long as it's permissible.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the issue
Eric?
brought up was overnight parking, Black House charge a fee to remove people at that time frame who do overnight camp, is that
The
correct?
campers,
The campers who are coming in at
the
10
vans,
set up.
yeah.
Okay.
They know their routine.
Mhm.
Now they start thinking, oh, well, nobody's coming, we're gonna, there's probably 5 or 6 there right now.
So if we can put it out to the community, the climbing community quite strongly to say no sleeping in the Smokeless Park, we'd like to enforce that within the community. That's quite an easy message to spread amongst, so we don't have to enforce it directly, but if 2,000 people in the community know tomorrow, they'll all see people camping and they'll self-enforce. And that'd be the way to go, and it is reduce the cost and also requires no people.
Well, we have to change the wording on the site.
That's the other thing I was going to bring up is now you might have to white out the sign or put a new sign up or something, or temporary signage.
We'll have a look at it.
Okay.
Stick a 1 over the 0.
Okay.
Should we release that notice back to the climbing community again to say no sleeping in the Smokeless Park? Like just it's not camping, because that solves multiple problems.
Yeah,
And it's self-regulating.
it's a good idea just as a general practice, whether or not we're changing the times. If you guys are
How do
putting
you
out
make an official communication from
CASBC and SAS and
yes, can we do it? I can do it from KCC.
Yeah,
SAS,
I'll make
yeah.
one from
And if
SAS.
someone can do it from SAS, and someone does it from, I don't know what comes from the community or something.
Could I release this map when we have a final version of it? Would we be allowed to release it through our social media channels?
I don't see it.
Yeah, because even
It's
just to
on the
remind
job.
people of the quiet zone and respecting communities, we had that email, and I'm kind of waiting to put it out like in the next few weeks, kind of. Yeah.
And then we'd follow the same strategy as KCC. Release the map, quiet zone, no overnight camping. It's a nice standard message from all of us at the same time.
No fires.
Yeah, no fires.
And if there's messages, Aisha, that you want the Fed to send it to its members, we will pass those along as well.
I would just suggest to follow the same,
We all do the
Cats
same
and
thing.
Yeah.
SAS.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, we'll send that out to the member clubs, get that message out, especially Mike with regards to the neighborhood.
I can try and get it up on Mountain Project too.
We'll get it up.
Helen, that map will be geo-referenced too, right?
Yep.
Follow the blue dot.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks Barry. I think that concludes
Are we
the.
making an app out of this map then?
Yeah, you were making it up. That concludes the business section.
With my great programming skills.
Are there any recommendations to council that we need to review? I don't think we have any outstanding recommendations. Are there any referrals from council?
No.
Okay, any correspondence today? I didn't see any get circulated. No. Roundtable discussion. Chrissy?
My only thing, and I don't think we necessarily need to discuss it today, but I just want to put it back on the district's radar to know what, maybe for next meeting, what the status is of the recommendation that went through to finalize the park. It as an official park, or Gary brought it up last year.
Yeah, we should have something to convey by that point.
By the next meeting in
By the next
May.
meeting in May.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Potentially sooner than that.
Okay, Eric? Mike? Said everything? We covered a lot today. Jenna?
The only thing that I'll flag is tomorrow, not tomorrow, next week, whenever Tuesday is, whatever day it is today. Tuesday, council will be reviewing the final draft of the Community Climate Action Plan. And so that's been a big focus of our work to date. And that final draft will be coming to council for review. And then there'll be some of the big key actions that we are looking to take as a district to try and address the climate emergency. So part of that is protecting green spaces and falls in line with kind of council's strategic priority across the board. But that's an exciting project that's coming to fruition that I'd like people to know about.
Thank you. Sue? Asia? Andy?
Yeah, sorry to bring it up, but I'm just trying to get what Michael said and what Spencer's got on there. Because we're talking about, are we still going to deactivate this section of trail, or are we waiting
I think
now?
the committee voted that it would be deactivated.
Deactivated? Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure that's...
Ellen? Matt?
No.
Next time. Brian?
Sorry, yes. I brought up the Christopher Crumb Memorial Bench at the last meeting. It seems to have dropped off the radar. I'd like to sort of ask what has happened there. And I'm hearing a rumour that Andy doesn't like the wooden option.
They get burned.
Well, this one hasn't been burnt. It's been there for a number of years, and it's much loved in our flagship park.
As of right now, we haven't got that far to get to council with regards to changing how we're doing it, but we are going to present it.
So what are our options?
It's either concrete was one, limestone, granite, or polyethylene, which is kind of a recycled plastic with a wood fiber inside of it.
Could I contact you to get examples of that in person?
Yep. I can send you some emails in regards to, there's a company called Wishbone? Wishbone.com or wishbonelimited.com.
Oh, I can check that.
Wishboneltd.com.
Okay.
Have a look at them, and they got some beautiful stuff there.
Okay.
It actually looks like wood, whatever you want, really.
What's the budget are we talking about, do you think?
I think their benches are around $1,500 in that neighborhood. So, yeah.
What about
That's
a couple of big
polyethylene.
basalt slabs? A couple of big basalt slabs?
Yeah. I mean,
Something non-flammable is what
you
would prefer.
Yeah. Okay, well, look at that option.
Yeah, I mean, Chris was such a influence in the park. We want something that's unique and not kind of cookie cutter website download.
That was my intent.
They make everything for you. They'll do everything, like including the plaques, whatever you want. So, if you want a picture table or you want to
have to go back to the board for
bench.
more funding. Okay, thanks for the information. So I'll follow up on that.
Okay, so is that a hard no then on wooden memorial benches? Because there's a fair
Not
number
yet.
of them in the park already that are in good condition.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay,
But
so we got time to get it in before?
We are working on it, yes.
Okay.
Take it to council.
Do you have one already made for this location?
Not yet, but we have something in mind, right, Brian?
Yeah, we have a contractor who could probably replicate quite accurately the one that's currently on the viewpoint trip.
Yeah, there's things written in it that could be a unique art bench or something like that for the area that it sits in, could be acceptable. That is in the wording as well.
I think too, because Chris was quite a master craftsman with wood, and the staircases and everything were wood, and the person to build this bench was the person that was his apprentice,
Yes,
essentially. in this case, and it's in a very remote section of the park, which is very unlikely to be vandalized, that in this case, I think wood would be suitable. Plus, it's much easier to get up to this high location than stone or concrete. So I think it might be wise to actually proceed before there is any kind of policy as to it must be this.
The policy still states that there is, for different types of areas, that, a unique art bench could be incorporated, or any kind of art. It's not just benches or fountains. Everybody wants to give us something at some point. So, I mean, it's there. But it would have to be, we'd have to have a little more discussion about that.
Sure.
I am now totally confused, so can we still pursue the wooden option or not?
As long as you call it an art bench, an artistic feature, rather than a resting area.
More artistic feature.
Yeah.
Yes, because
You've already got wooden benches in the area, right?
Yeah, there's a history of wooden benches in the area that haven't been vandalized, so. Yeah, Brian, I think we're still okay to proceed with the original plan as long as we don't call it a bench.
Yeah, I would not even be interested in putting in one of those.
What I can do is I can forward you our old policy right now, and then I'll kind of explain what it is there. So.
Yeah, but I thought we just decided that we could proceed on the wooden structure.
No, that's what I'm saying, but if you want to see it, more than welcome to look at it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't have anything, but I just noticed in the minutes from the last month's meeting, there's a couple things that I just wanted to follow up with. One was that, I don't know on Facebook, but did something go out on social media about like quiet times and whatever else?
It hasn't yet, but I'm trying to wait until the map came out. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean we can do multiple ones. It's just kind of I want it to be like specifically directed. So.
Okay. So let's just say it'll go out when the map goes out.
Mm-hmm. It'll like before like in the
climbing
next
season
month
starts
probably.
up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a priority.
Okay. And then there was the code of conduct sign that is located right now near the garbage can by the play park. It's it doesn't face the trail in any direction, and it's only accessible to people already in the park. So John and I looked at moving it to the yellow gate at just in front of the Hospital Hill Play Park there. It hasn't happened yet, but we're talking about just putting a new post in, 6x6, 8-foot post, and rebolting the sign to it.
Makes sense.
Okay, and yeah, that's it for me. Motion to dismiss, that was called? Adjourn. Motion to adjourn the meeting, anyone? Eric? And Chrissy seconds?
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Unanimous.